So, for today's video, I'm going to be looking at the article in music-news.com entitled's not a word, Brian May slams BRIT Awards over gender-neutral categories. So, in this article, Brian May, who's of Queen fame, is criticizing the BRIT Awards for eliminating the separate male and female awards for the different categories because they combine them into a gender neutral category. And so there's a lot of mixed feelings that I'm getting out of this from him. So from the one side, he's talking about how he thinks that like this decision was not really well thought through because the Brit Awards, for several of the major categories like the album of the year and group of the year, they only had all male nominees and of course winners, which is disappointing. And he thinks that that's the reason that happened is because they eliminated those categories and turned them into gender neutral. I don't agree with that. I think that that really just like was an unfortunate consequence because they sort of like eliminated the upfront aspect of sexism but didn't eliminate the fact that like still they're only nominating men and not women in the industry. And I also take issue with a part where he basically says that like people are gonna be like, oh, do we want to work like they're not like the right gender or like whatever to work with because that could look bad for social justice or whatever. Obviously that is not the case because they still only nominated males and predominantly white males. So I think that he's both conflicting in these different opinions and they're coming from different spaces and it's not very well thought out. But I also understand when he's talking about how he thinks that they should think more about like the actual process of nomination rather than just getting rid of male and female and putting it into one and then ending up with still all males. Because that is a legitimate qualm with the industry, is that there needs to be more representation for women, especially when it comes to production, and not just being like the artist and the front person. Because there are a lot of female producers who struggle in the industry because it's such a male dominated in terms of like the grassroots and the behind the scenes of production, live stage stuff, behind the scenes, producers, that sort of thing. And I legitimately think that is a thing that needs to be brought up. In terms of how it's affecting the industry, this conversation, I definitely think it needs to be had. But this sort of like rushing to like colorblindness and that sort of thing, especially with when he talked about like how he thinks people are going to be like, oh, we don't want to work with like white people or whatever. I don't think that reflects the reality of how things are and is thus not really informing to good progress that needs to be made. And I think that together his comments are really not contributing positively to the conversation.